Did you know a $550 turntable has been set up right next to decks costing 3 and 4 times as much? Same room, same records, and made people who should know better visibly uncomfortable. And that the turntable purists love to dismiss as too basic is often the one where every single dollar went into the only parts that actually touch the record. Today we're breaking down 5 turntables that everyone ignores, and every single one of them is a genuine gold mine. Before we continue, make sure to like this video and subscribe. So let's start with the first one. Number 5. The Audio-Technica AT-LP120X USB. Retailing for around $350, this is the deck most serious vinyl guides point beginners toward, for a reason most casual buyers never hear explained. Skip the cheap, all-in-one suitcase players stacked to the ceiling at big box stores. Those things track at brutally heavy weights, scraping microscopic life out of the groove with every spin, and slowly sanding your records down until they hiss. The AT-LP120X USB isn't just a slightly nicer version of those, it's the actual cure. It's a proper direct drive turntable, built in the spirit of classic radio station and club decks. With the motor sitting directly under the platter, it reaches full speed almost instantly, and holds pitch like a metronome. Something cheap belt-driven toys simply can't do. You get a real S-shaped tone arm, adjustable counterweight, anti-skate, and a solid moving magnet cartridge pre-aligned right out of the box. To be fair, it's not the last word in finesse. It leans a touch bright, and the stock rubber feet aren't great at shrugging off heavy footsteps on a bouncy floor. Set it on a solid, level surface, and that issue disappears. What you get is honest, punchy, room-filling sound, a switchable phono preamp, and a platform you can actually grow with through future cartridge upgrades, instead of a dead end you're stuck with. Verdict: the deck most people underestimate because they've seen it everywhere, without realizing it's the real deal underneath. Number 4. The U-Turn Orbit. Retailing between $300 and $600 depending on how it's spec'd, the U-Turn Orbit is a quiet love letter to doing things the simple, honest way. Designed and hand-assembled in Massachusetts by a small crew, not mass-produced on a factory line halfway around the world. No motor gimmickry. No fake buttons. No plastic pretending to be brushed aluminum. The Step-Up Orbit Special gets a beautiful clear acrylic platter, an upgraded low-friction tone arm, and a cartridge that plays far above its price point. Here's where the criticism usually lands, and here's why it misses the point entirely. Purists sniff that it's too basic. Nothing but a motor, a platter, and an arm bolted to a slab. That's exactly the point. Every dollar in this deck went into the 3 or 4 parts that actually touch the record and turn a wiggle in a groove into music, instead of a glowing display and a pile of features nobody asked for. The sound reflects that focus. Clean, open, surprisingly emotional, with a neatly focused soundstage and bass that stays tight and tuneful, rather than fat and boomy. To be fair, this isn't the deck for someone chasing a feature checklist. If you want Bluetooth, USB ripping, or a built-in display, look elsewhere on this list. But if you want a small company pouring everything into the parts that matter and letting the engineering speak for itself, the Orbit has earned its spot. Verdict: dismissed as too basic by people counting features instead of listening to the 4 parts that actually make the music. Number 3. The Fluence RT85. Retailing for around $550, the Fluence RT85 is a giant killer, flat out. And the reason why isn't a mystery, it's just smart business most shoppers never notice. Fluence sells directly off their own website, skipping the entire chain of distributors and showroom markups that quietly inflate the price of most turntables. Every dollar saved there goes straight into the parts you can actually hear. A thick, glossy acrylic platter that drains away vibration. A motor properly isolated and tucked away so its buzz never reaches the record. A removable head shell for easy cartridge swaps. Depending on the version, either a superb Ortofon 2M Blue or a warmer Nagaoka MP110 cartridge, already installed and dialed in from the factory. The deck itself weighs nearly 17 pounds, planting itself with real confidence and ignoring the small vibrations that upset flimsier players. To be fair, It skips the built-in phono preamp, a deliberate call, betting you'd rather have that money living in the platter and cartridge than in a cheap preamp chip most listeners would want to replace anyway. Here's the part that actually matters. Set up right next to turntables costing 3 and 4 times as much, in the same room, on the same records, and it's made people who should know better visibly uncomfortable with how close it gets. If value and sound quality ever had a child together, it would look and sound a lot like the RT85. Verdict: the deck that proves the entire premise of this list, that a bigger price tag doesn't automatically buy better sound, and the RT85 is the receipt. Number 2. The Denon DP300F. The Denon DP300F launched back in 2017 at $329, and years later it's still holding its ground as a class leader in the affordable turntable space, which is exactly why it gets overlooked. It's not new, it's not flashy, and it doesn't chase trends. It just quietly keeps working. Fully automatic operation and a built-in phono preamp mean this is a real turntable someone can plug in and start playing records on within minutes, with zero setup knowledge required. No tone arm balancing, no cartridge alignment, none of the intimidating first-step barriers that scare people away from vinyl entirely. That automation is exactly what serious hobbyists sneer at, and exactly why it's such a strong goldmine pick for anyone who wants the real format without the learning curve. To be fair, this isn't a giant killer in the same way the RT85 is. TechRadar's own comparison put it plainly. The bigger, more complicated Audio-Technica AT-LP120X USB sounds a bit better than the Denon, but at the cost of that simplicity, since it doesn't have the DP300F's auto-cueing. Some reviewers have also noted the highs lack extension, and the soundstage runs a bit confined compared to decks with more expensive cartridges. Real trade-offs, not hidden ones. But here's what owners actually report. One vinyl technician who set it up for a customer described being surprised at how nice it sounded through the onboard phono preamp, and when he switched to running it through a proper external phono input on his test amp, he genuinely couldn't tell the difference. That's a built-in preamp doing its job well enough that the expensive workaround isn't necessary for most listeners. Verdict: dismissed as too automated to be a real audiophile deck, when the automation is precisely what makes it the turntable that actually gets someone's record collection out of the box and onto the platter. Number 1. The Sony PS-LX3BT. Priced around $328, often on sale from a $398 list price, the Sony PS-LX3BT is the best fully automatic Bluetooth turntable under $400. And that single combination of words is exactly why vinyl purists dismiss it without giving it a real listen. Sony and Bluetooth turntable both trigger instant skepticism in this hobby. The assumption is that wireless streaming and a mainstream electronics brand name mean a toy, not a real deck. That assumption is wrong here. This is fully automatic operation paired with a genuinely good built-in phono stage, plus the ability to stream wirelessly to modern powered speakers or a soundbar, without giving up an actual phono cartridge running the show. That's a real useful niche most of this list doesn't cover. Someone who wants their record collection integrated into a modern wireless setup, not stuck behind a wired-only deck from another era. To be fair, there are real trade-offs. It's a newer product with a thinner track record than decks like the RT85 or the Carbon Evo. The chassis is MDF rather than aluminum, which affects the premium feel more than the actual sound. And serious listeners will eventually want to bypass the built-in phono stage with a dedicated external preamp as a next step up. The same honest caveat true of nearly every turntable on this list with a built-in preamp. But for what it promises, real vinyl playback with genuine wireless flexibility, under $400, nothing else on the market currently matches it. Verdict: written off for the 2 words in its own description, when those 2 words are exactly what make it the most useful pick on this list for a modern living room. Price and sound quality are related. They're loosely correlated, but one does not automatically buy you the other. 5 turntables on this list get dismissed for being too basic, too automated, too cheap, or too mainstream. and every single one of them out-delivers what its reputation suggests. If this saved you from overpaying for a name instead of the parts that actually touch the record, subscribe. What turntable are you spinning right now? And did anyone ever try to talk you out of it? Tell me in the comments.